What up, roomies? Imagine if your voice, not what you're saying, but how you say it, could reveal trauma, hidden beliefs, and even emotional blocks you didn't know you had. Tonight's guest says she can map that and actually help you release it. We're talking about something called EVOX, voice mapping, energy work, and quantum healing. This the future of healing, or is this something people completely misunderstand? Well, let's find out. Christine,
Yes.
welcome to the neighbors. I'm so sorry, I totally butchered that, but
Oh, you're great. Thanks for having me, Ariel. It's great to be here. And what a great explanation. What a great intro you gave. It's a good jumping off point.
thank you. Um, so thanks for being on, of course, and I really appreciate it. And when I saw your post about evox and like quantum healing and energy work, I got really curious on how our voice kind of like lets us know or lets you know like what traumas we've been through, what our beliefs are, and all that. And that really spiked my curiosity. So I'm gonna just jump right into it. What's evox exactly, and like how does this all correlate?
So EVOX is a technology.
Okay.
It uses voice mapping technology and energy in the quantum field to create harmony where we have disharmony in our system. And
Okay.
it's not that new. It's been around for about 30 years. So, in the big scheme of things, that's relatively new. But Dr. Cook, Dr. Von Cook, he's the creator. He's retired now. And he has his own personal stories about how he was on his own healing journey and was searching for different modalities and has a background in acupuncture and chiropractic and things like that. And he had a colleague who was more in tune with the voice and how sound healing can work. And the two of them joined together and they created EVOX.
Okay.
So I think of it as an energetic MRI. That's how I think of it. If we have something going on physically in our body, I had a knee issue. I went for an MRI. I was able to kind of diagnose what was going on. What EVOX does is it's scanning through our voice and through something that's called the galvanic skin response. That's where the hand cradle comes in. And it's looking for where we have stuck energy or where we are not in harmony. Um, we hear tones in our voice. You can hear if I'm excited or nervous or sad. And our dogs can hear all kinds of tones that we don't hear. We'll see them reacting to something that we don't hear, right? So
Yeah.
EVOX takes it even deeper. It takes it to a different level. And there's research that shows that different tones match different emotions or energetic zones
Okay.
in the body. So EVOX is looking at 12 different energy or emotional zones, things like sadness, fear, anger, unexpressed emotions is a big one. And we get stuck in those places and we don't even know it.
Okay.
So usually how it begins is someone comes in with a concern they're aware of, right? Their conscious mind is stressed about work, for example. And if we go through the EVOX process, each round, and I'll explain what that means in a minute, but it's taking us deeper and deeper into our subconscious or unconscious mind. So you're not being hypnotized. It's not like that, but similar to hypnosis, it's
Okay.
taking us deeper and deeper. And that's where all the wisdom is. We may be speaking out loud about stress at work, but the tones in our voice are telling a different story that we may not even be aware of. And through this process, that gets uncovered, and that's what we get to release or heal from.
Oh, okay, I get you. So when you mentioned that you're mapping the voice, right? Are you guys like looking for like specific frequencies? I know you had mentioned tones, but how does like the mapping process like work? Is it like when you're using the evoc process, does it like appear on the screen and then you'll see like different like spectrums and all
It's
that?
like magic. I'm not on my Evox computer. I would love to like show it to you. I'll have to send you a shot of the sample.
Yeah.
So it's a the map looks like a round circle and it's a pie chart. So think of
Okay.
picture a round circle with 12 pie slices,
Okay.
and each slice represents a different energetic zone.
Okay.
And then it's all color coded. So I call the stuck energy the hot spots because it happens to be red and yellow. So red and yellow are what we're focusing on. Blue and green would be representation of low energy or mild amount of energy that's stuck. And then the white zone is from completely clear of anything that's not in harmony. We're 100% energy all the time. So it's not that there's no energy in those zones, but at least at that time, based on that topic, there's no stuck energy. So that's what it looks like. And yes, as the person, so when I sit with a client in my office, this can also be done remotely, which is interesting, but they put a headset on. So they're speaking into a microphone and I can see, it almost looks like one of those, I don't know exactly what they're called. When someone has like a cardiac test done and you see how the heart rate goes up and down.
Oh, like a heart meter, like
Right. Like or EKG or something. So
yeah.
The voice mapping almost looks like that going across.
Okay.
That's what I see. Sometimes it's very even, sometimes it's really all over the place. So I see that the technology is really advanced. So I'm not interpreting what's happening, it's actually showing it to me. Then I can help explain it to the person at the end of the session. So that's what's happening. And they're only speaking for 10 seconds. It's a little sound bite. And then the technology is analyzing what came through in the voice and what comes through in the hand cradle, which to me, it looks like a hand out of Star Wars or a giant mouse or something, but
yeah.
hand is on it and it's literally reading your galvanic skin response is similar to the technology they use in the lie detector test. So it's similar to that. It can read lots of other biometrics as well. But the technology is analyzing those two pieces of data, and then a sound frequency is sent through the headset. So the sound frequency, it's really a fancy word for music. It's music that is instrumental, and again, the tones are designed to help people relax and drop deeper and deeper into that unconscious, subconscious mind. I'm coaching the person to remember to breathe, just stay open to receiving, and they're also receiving the energy frequencies through the hand cradle, and that's where the quantum field comes into play. When I'm sitting with someone, I'm sensitive to energy anyway, but I can feel the energy that's happening.
Yeah.
We're always having energetic entanglements constantly. You and I are having one right now, even though we're not in the same place, right?
Yeah.
So certainly when someone's in my office, I'm not taking on their energy, but I can sense it. And our goal is to have a release. A release is shown to me on the screen, either by a dramatic color shift or there were some numbers that I'm watching. But honestly, I've been doing it long enough that I can feel the release coming for the person before I even see it on the screen, almost always. And what's really cool is the clients can usually feel it too. They don't always know that it's happened. And I'll say, okay, you just had your first release. And they'll kind of laugh or smile because they notice something that shifts. It can be really minor. It's like each time we do this, we're peeling back the layer of an onion. That's how I like to think about it. Because if we're working on some type of trauma or ancestral healing or really deep things, we're not going to be done in one session, but we can have a release in one session, sometimes more than one release, that's allowing energy to move, more healing energy to come in, and then that sets the person up to go deeper next time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I'm following you with you. I also do audio engineering, so so I'm following you exactly, and I'm also imagining like the spectrums and stuff as you're explaining it.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like, you getting a response or you seeing like feedback on the EVOX computer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it that you're bringing up a topic, or is it just like, the person just gets like relaxed and they'll just like start talking, or how do you like, get everything started, I would say, or like, or how do you choose like the topics to like kind of like dive into?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I'm a mental health therapist and I practice from a holistic lens. So usually most clients have been working with me for a little while. Sometimes somebody comes in just for EVOX, and that's a very specific purpose. EVOX can be used for performance enhancement. Athletes use it to improve performance, job improvement. I've had students come in for test anxiety, and they're only coming in for that one session to clear the anxiety because they're taking a big exam or a licensing exam. So that's very, very clear. We know that's all we're going to address. But with clients who are working with me, usually over time, we get to a point where we've gone so far with the depression, the anxiety, the stress, the relationship, the trauma. And we're just feeling like we're stuck, and there's more to uncover, and we don't know what that is. So in those cases, we have enough history that we have a starting point. And the beautiful thing about EVOX is you don't have to know where you're going. All you
True.
need is a starting point, because you're actually guided where to go. So people get really nervous because they don't want to do it wrong, and you can't do it wrong. So if someone knows that they're really struggling from some abuse they experienced as a kid, and they feel like they've done a lot of therapy on it, and they don't know why it still feels like it just happened yesterday. They don't have to talk about the details of the abuse. They don't need to relive it. They can talk about the feeling, or they can even just call it that thing, because again, our voice is the energy is topic specific. So they're thinking in general about it, and they just start. When they listen to that music and they're just breathing and relaxing, some people will say they're getting messages. Some people believe those messages are coming from outside of themselves. Some people believe those messages are coming from their higher power or the universe. Some people believe those messages are coming from their very deep inner core, their wisdom, their unconscious, subconscious mind. Some people believe it's a memory or thought they just haven't thought about in a while. It doesn't really matter, because it's coming up. And what I coach them to do is anything that comes up when you're listening to that sound output, that's what you should talk about next, even if it doesn't make sense to you, because that's where you're being guided. That's where your subconscious, unconscious mind is guiding you. And that's where we find out that sometimes we started talking about topic A, but through this process, what's really being released is something they hadn't thought about in years, or hadn't occurred to them. Or maybe it's not even theirs. Maybe it's something ancestral that's been in their family lineage, and that's been passed down. So we don't always know where we're going. Sometimes it's very, very specific, and other times it's a mystery. But it's always helpful.
I got you. No,
Yeah.
it sounds dope, and I would, if I'm ever in Florida, I'm definitely gonna hit you up so I can try it.
I would
But
love that.
but
And you might have to find somebody in New York who's doing it. It's, it is, I will say it's more common on the West Coast, as many non-traditional modalities are, but I'm sure that there are therapists in New York who are doing this too.
hey, but why would I go to anybody else I got
That's
you? You know,
great. Come on down.
and it gives me a reason to go down to Florida.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Yes. Get out of that winter. Well, we're heading into our hot season now, but when it's cold again, that's a great time to go. Yeah.
But so all right, so you're going through this process with a client, and they're talking about trauma A, and they lead into like ancestral trauma, right? Do you find it that a lot of the times that they'll start talking about like trauma A, that it'll lead into like ancestral trauma, where it's more deeply rooted than what they originally had thought, or
Yeah, I think so. What I'm doing when they're talking is I'm taking notes, because there's a lot of wisdom in what they're saying, and I don't want to miss anything. And I also don't want to engage them during the process, because then if I start talking to them, I pull them back into their conscious mind. So sometimes it happens, sometimes it's obvious during the session, sometimes it's at the end when we're doing a recap and I'm kind of reading through what they were sharing, and together we discover like, oh, that sounds something like I was told my grandfather experienced, or like sometimes it comes up that way. So I wouldn't say it's not always obvious. Sometimes it's much more subtle. But when we are working on a topic for a little while, and we seem to be going in circles, that's when I'll introduce the idea of, what if this isn't all your stuff? What if this comes from your parents, grandparents, or beyond? And that's what that's called in the EVOX world. It's called transgenerational healing. So that's a different kind of map that we create. And we create again, one of those circles with the pie chart, but we create a baseline on biological parents, if there are adoptive parents or other caregivers who raise someone, even if there's not a biological connection, both sets of grandparents, and any other significant person who would have an impact on how that person views themselves. We also include partners, current and past, who would have a significant impact because of that energetic entanglement. And that creates this baseline map. And then we do more intense sessions on each of those individuals, the relationship the person had with that individual. And if they didn't have a relationship with them, for example, if someone was adopted and we're doing a scan on their biological parents, they don't have to really know anything about them, because again, it's the topic and the energy, the genetics and the epigenetics that come through. But there can be really deep links that are impacting the person today. And one example I can give you is I was working with someone, and they did not come in because of a fear of water, like a dire fear of water, ocean, river, lake, swimming pool, that kind of thing. We were working on other things, but it was coming through when we were doing this transgenerational healing, and they were adopted. So we don't know if one of their biological parents had a trauma related to water, but when we were done with the process, that fear was gone.
Fire.
So that's good enough for me. Like I don't have to know, but that's good enough for me. So that's one example. Like we don't always know the why, and I live in the magical world, so I'm okay with not knowing the why. But I love that. I feel like this is where the magic and the science line up, because although explaining quantum physics is a complicated thing, energy to me makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
So, and I see it, and I see the benefit. So I know that it's working, and I would have never predicted that, right? That's not even why they came to see me. It just happened to come up in conversation, and we were doing the family map for another reason, and that ended up being the outcome.
That's so dope. So like when you start, do you ever have it where you are working on like maybe like a family or like multiple people that are like connected in order to get someone past a certain block or anything like that?
So I have not had a family or a couple come in together to work on things, but because energy is energy, one member of a family can be working on a family issue, and the other people are benefiting from it even though they don't know it. And this is just another example, and I'm trying not to be too specific because of privacy, but I also know this person wouldn't mind me sharing this story. But it was someone who had been estranged from a family member for many, many years, and they wanted to repair the relationship and were convinced that it would never be possible. So we were working on that, and we were doing this family map, and we had just done a significant session on this family member that they're estranged from. They had a couple of significant releases, and literally the next day, that family member called them.
Wow, that's dope.
Now, again, maybe like I can't prove that it's connected, but I've seen it too many times to not believe it. Like it happens. And quantum physics would explain that energetic entanglement, that release happened. There was healing that was happening in this individual, and that energetic piece happens for the other person too.
So the attraction regains itself.
Right. And before I ever started using EVOX with clients, I was practicing with a colleague who's also using the technology. We were treating each other. And I had a very similar experience with a family member that is just always a challenge for me. I love them, but it's hard to be around them. And I'm sure I'm sure they feel the same way, right? Um, but I wanted it to be different. And I went through this process and I found a deep compassion for them that I've never had before. It wasn't like new information came up, but it came up for me in a different way that I was flooded with compassion to the point that tears were streaming down my face. It was like a new knowing, even though it wasn't new information. And
Yeah.
it changed everything. We see the world differently. We're never going to agree on a lot of things, but when we are together, it's much more peaceful. And it is for them too. They don't know why, and this is not something I would share with them. They think the things I do are a little crazy, but um, but it mattered. It mattered a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I got you. I got you. Because I also have family members that I love them, but I don't
Yeah.
like them, and and that's the simplest way to put it to it.
Yeah.
Like I could be like, and you feel me? These are people that I'm not gonna say were ever distant. Like they were extremely close, and things happen,
Yeah.
and we fell off, whatever. But I love them. I just don't like them, and that's
Yeah.
where I stand. Like
Well, and that's like unconditional love, right? We love them no
yep,
matter what, but we don't like them. Yeah.
we don't like them. But excuse me. So how often do you see it that people, when people go in there, it it comes to the fact that they like have like a trauma with a family member, or their their trauma is like rooted in not what they originally thought it was.
I'm sorry, what was the question? How often?
What Yeah, how often do you see it that a person would come in for like a certain thing? Like let's say a person comes in there for like their depression, and they think that subject A is the cause of it, but when they really get down to the root of it, it's like something totally left field that they never would have thought that is the
Yeah.
cause for like their symptoms.
Yeah. I think because it's very layered, right? There's usually not just
Mm.
one cause. So what happens often is what they think is a contributing factor is a contributing factor, but it's not the biggest contributing factor. We find out that there are other things that are actually impacting them more. And we can actually show that in a scan. So there's 3 types of scans with EVOX. There's single topic, multi-topic, and the transgenerational. So the
Mhm.
multi-topic scan, I do that one when it seems like we're going all over the place and we're trying to, again, it's more it's kind of like problem focused, but we're not getting to it. And I'll say, why don't we think about what do you think are the top 3 or 5 things that are contributing to this issue? I just did this with someone, and it was about a family member. There's a lot
Mhm.
of hurt and pain and trauma related in that relationship, and they named 4 or 5 things, and they were so certain because we had been talking only about one of those things, and they were so certain that number one thing was it. So we do that map on all 5 of those topics with the umbrella general topic of the trauma and stress. And through their voice and through the hand cradle energy, it gets put in order for me. I can see this is 60% responsible. This is 80% responsible. And it's never the one people think is the top reason. Never. So now we know, okay, we're still going to address what we started with, but that's actually the least significant reason. We're going to target these other things and go deeper here first. And what's cool about the multi-topic approach, because it is still all connected. If trauma is the overarching topic, but there's the relationship or the family or the abuse or the financial piece or whatever it was, each time we clear one of those, because the energy is moving and the person's getting more in harmony, the next one's a little bit easier. The next one's a little bit easier because our energy it's all connected.
I got you.
Yeah.
Do you ever see it that damn, I just had it in my head too. Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
um Damn.
Oh, it was a good one.
Oh wait, all right. Right. I got it. Let's say you have a new client, right? And they come in for their first session with you. Do
Mhm.
you mostly do like regular therapy before you recommend EVOX, or let's say they want to do EVOX from the jump, right? What
Mhm.
is the process of like a first session of EVOX that a person would go through before you get like into like specifics?
So if that's what they wanted to do first, that's why they saw that I do evox, and that's why they're coming to see me. So before I meet with anyone, I do a consultation call,
Okay.
because I'm not the right fit for everybody. I'm not, we have to make sure that I can really help them, and that their expectations of what I can do align. So we do a consultation call first, maybe 20, 30 minutes, so we can kind of sort through some of that. Um, the therapist in me would always prefer to do a full intake before I start working with someone, because there's going to be so many pieces to the puzzle that it's helpful for me to have.
Yeah.
But so usually I would start with that and then go to the treatment. But when someone comes in, for example, the test anxiety, they're taking their um, medical board exam on Friday and they're freaking out and they just need help with that, sure, come on in, we'll do EVOX right away.
All right. Cool.
But if
Um.
it's, I could miss so much by not doing the intake. So EVOX, like I said, performance improvement, medical things. There's a cancer center in Irvine, California that uses EVOX with their cancer patients. They're not saying EVOX cures cancer, but what they believe is whatever the energetic blocks may be in someone, if those can be released, the chemo or the radiation will be more beneficial because their body's not blocking it.
True on that.
Pretty
So
cool,
like,
right?
no, it's super dope because because now that science is kind of like aligning with a lot of like quote unquote spirituality, and I don't want to put spirituality in this box, but science is now catching up to the fact that our emotions are our emotional state and our mental state and our spiritual state affects our physical state.
Yes. Yes. That's
So
100%.
you know what I mean? And I don't want to say it as a spiritual thing, but people people knew this for centuries that our emotions, our spirituality, our mental state all affect our body, and that's what causes disease, and that's what they say is dis-ease. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm really okay with you calling it a spiritual thing, because there can be a spiritual aspect that has nothing to do with religion. Someone can be an atheist or a humanist and still have a spiritual aspect to
No, of
themselves,
course.
because we're energy. We are all energy. So um, nothing surprises me when it comes to evox. But I have had um, clients preparing for surgery, having surgery, and they'll come in for a few sessions prior to surgery, again, just to clear anything that may be a barrier to their recovery, to help set themselves up for the best possible recovery, yeah, as well as after surgery or after a medical event. Um, because again, just like you said, it's all connected, and we don't like to think about our energy or our emotions causing our heart attack or whatever. Um, but there's a lot of research out there to support that they are intertwined.
Yeah, and a great example of that is like, I'm pretty sure plenty of people have heard that when a couple's been together for like 50, 60, 70 years,
Yeah,
and one of them passes away, sometimes their partner passes away of a broken heart, and
yeah,
they could be healthy as an ox, you know what I mean,
yeah.
and they'll just pass away suddenly from a broken heart, and that shows you that the emotional state affects the body, that your mental state affects the body, and science wants to kind of like separate everything, but just like the earth is, or just like how society is, everything is a system, everything has connectivity.
Absolutely. And music is so powerful. I love
Yeah.
that music is a piece of evox. I don't remember what the study is, but you've probably heard of this one too, where uh, when certain music was played for plants, and for another set of plants it wasn't, and the plants that were getting the music, the classical music, grew much healthier and stronger than the plants that were not. Like it's all again that vibration, that frequency.
No, you're absolutely correct. And now that science is kind of like catching up, or at least the technology is being released to like the general public, we're starting to
Mhm.
see that, you know, frequency, light and sound frequencies help heal the body. So
Yeah.
I could see how Evox could put somebody in a state where they're able to like confront their energetic blocks without having that anxiety, without having that fear, and you know, letting them work through that. Um,
Right.
and you know, just stepping away from Evox for a second, how
Mhm.
important is it for somebody to be aware of their energetic blocks and to like, you know, actually seek help to release
Well, I think we would all be a heck of a lot happier and
them?
healthier if we did that.
Facts.
So, you know, I've only Evox has been in my realm of knowledge for a couple of years, so it's
Yeah.
relatively new to the way I work. But before I ever knew about Evox, I definitely incorporated energy in my own personal practices, but also in my work with clients. I am a Reiki master. That's not something uh, I don't practice independently that way, but I can offer energy work to
Mm.
clients. Another lifetime, it feels like I worked in some medical settings. I worked in a outpatient cancer setting, and patients would come in for their chemo, and they don't feel well, and they're nervous and they're anxious, and I could just sit with them, and I wouldn't call it Reiki because that term scares some people, but I would just say, is it okay if I give you a little energy to help you relax? And it was really effective, just little mini spot treatments. So it's been part of my world for a long time, and that kind of goes back to my own healing and spiritual journey. Um, but I tell people, just think about it as prayer. Some people are much more comfortable with the thought of
Yeah.
prayer, and people pray for someone else's wellness or their own because they believe it will work.
True.
And that's really what matters. If we are open to the possibility, regardless of if we're doing prayer or meditation or energy healing, um, if we're open to the possibility of it working, then it can.
I feel you.
Yeah.
Have you ever had like a client that comes in and is like is like super close minded about it, and then you know, once they go through a session, they're like, oh my god, this really works, or like, you know, they kind of like have a more of an open mind.
Yes. And I think the gift of what I do is it's very relational. So
Yeah.
we're we're getting to know each other, we're building rapport, they learn to trust me. So they may not trust the technology. They might think it's weird or crazy or probably not helpful. But if they trust me enough to try it, even though they're skeptical, absolutely. And I'm thinking of one gentleman right now. He's very analytical. You know, he's
Yeah.
very analytical. He wants to see the science. There's a lot of science to back this up. He actually read some of the research articles. They're not specific to EVOX, but they're specific to the technology, explaining why voice mapping works and sound healing works and the energy in the quantum field. But he had no expectations. He was pretty skeptical, and he's been on this journey with me for about 6 months now, and is making some really profound progress on a lifelong trauma situation that had really haunted him for a long time. So it's to me that's thrilling. To me that's thrilling to see that, and I take it very seriously, and I really honor and respect the trust that's given to me. And I wouldn't offer something that I didn't believe in. Obviously, I can't make any promises, and that's true for anything that I offer, traditional talk therapy or the other modalities. But if I believe it can help and the person trusts me, I at least know we're not going to do any harm, and
True on that.
a lot of good can come from it.
True on that. And how does a person realize that they're stuck energetically?
I think people realize that they're stuck. They may not say I'm stuck energetically, but they feel stuck. They're repeating the same patterns, the same thought is coming up, that same kind of inner critic, that inner voice They've tried different things to change that. They find themselves in the same types of relationships, maybe not the same relationship, but the same types of relationships that are not fulfilling. Those are all signs that you're stuck. I would say energetically stuck. But I think all anyone really needs is the awareness that they've been doing the same thing for a while and it's not working for them. That's a sign that they're stuck. And they don't need to know where the energy is or what that means. They just need to be open to figuring out how to do it differently.
True, true.
Yeah.
I got you on that. So like, how could if somebody is trying to like get unstuck or like clear out some energy blocks? Is there anything they could do at home or like, or
Sure.
is it better to have like somebody guiding them through it?
Yeah, I think because energy is accessible to all of us, there are a lot of things people can do at home. Um, just our breath. Our breath is so powerful. It's with us all the time. You and I are breathing right now. Right now, we're not thinking about it, right? It's just,
Yeah,
it's just a mechanism. But learning some really simple breathing techniques. There's great videos on YouTube people can go to watch. But square breathing is a popular one. It's also known as the breath of four. So with square breathing, but this is a way to have a release because just a deeper level of relaxation can give someone a release. Meditation can give someone a release. I love movement. Um, dancing, stretching, anything physical, a boxing class, all of those things can be a release. I will tell you, this tattoo, it's brand new for me, so it's still healing, but this
yeah.
dragon tattoo is the representation of a powerful release I had using my voice. It was a release that happened, it was actually a year ago, January. There was
Nice.
going on that had me filled with rage. And I'm really good at releasing my energy. I don't walk around with that usually. My body, I could feel the rage coursing through my body and I couldn't release it. So a couple of things really helped me. I went to a full moon sound bath. It was a rooftop sound bath with the crystal bowls, and so the vibrations got me going. Music is vibration. People can put music on, crank it up, and just feel the vibration, right? But this
That's a
particular
fact.
vibration helped me. And at the end of it, I could feel it. I could just feel the energy moving. And I probably freaked everyone out, but I stood up and I gathered all the energy and I let out the loudest guttural roar that I didn't even know my voice could create. And the roar sounded like a dragon to me, dragon energy. And it transmuted that rage into power. That was a huge energetic shift. Huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, I had some facilitation through the sound bath, but music at home with if you live with other people and you can't blast it, put your headset on and just feel it. So there's lots of things that we have around us all the time that we can tap into for energy.
No, that is definitely true. And then when it comes to like music, especially like, and I tell people this all the time, like producers and composers and people that like in sound engineers and people who work closely with sound, they could manipulate emotion. They come and manipulate the way you feel with frequency and all this. And that's why we tune into certain music that makes us feel good. And when we're sad, certain music that, pulls on our heartstrings when,
Yep.
when we're in that mode. And like a lot of people don't give music and sound the credit it deserves when it comes to like
Mhm.
healing and, kind of like, I don't want to say manipulating, but kind of like moving us through our emotions.
Yeah, I give drumming, hand drumming, djembe drumming. I give
Yeah.
that modality credit for my healing after my divorce. A friend dragged me to a drum workshop. I did not want to go. I had never drummed before. Um, Jim Donovan was the instructor. He used to be the drummer for Rusted Root back in the day, and this
Yeah.
was like a different part of his career. But it was the yoga of drum and chant. So we were drumming and we were chanting. So both the music and the voice. And I fell in love with it. It definitely, I mean, I was crying the whole time. Talk about a release. That's another great
Yeah,
way to have a release.
that's a
Um,
fact.
but it really became a hobby that I still turn to just feel that beat and move things. I can really I can angry drum, I can happy drum, I can drum in sacred circle with others. It's a really cool thing.
No, I feel you on that. And now that we're on the topic of sound, right? And you said you had went to a sound bath. How is that? Because I've always heard about them, but I've never like went to one myself.
Oh, you have
And
to
I've
go.
always been like curious about it.
You have to go. I've been to quite a few, and they are all a little different, of course, depending on the practitioner and depending on the instruments, because some of the crystal bowls have a certain frequency, and then the Tibetan bowls, which are the metal bowls,
Yeah.
and the gongs have a different frequency. All wonderful, just different. So I actually had an experience once that I was really convinced that I was levitating because that's how I felt, but I was afraid to open my eyes because I didn't want to ruin it. So I didn't peek. But I felt like I was lifting off the ground, because the sound was enveloping me. It was all around
Yeah.
me. So I really, really enjoy it. I haven't been to one in a while. So now that we're talking about it, I'm gonna have to find one. But there's a studio that offers a floating sound bath. So you're laying in like a hammock.
Okay.
So the studios that do the aerial yoga, they have like those. I don't think they're called hammocks, but it's like that. A sling, I think it's called. So you're not on the ground. You're actually floating during the sound bath, which is really cool.
That's so dope. I'm definitely gonna have to check it. I'm definitely gonna have to check one out too. So like what would you recommend to a person that's like looking into EVOX and they kind of want to try it but are kind of hesitant? Like what would you say to them to like kind of push them to like try it out?
Yeah, I would say, information is power, right? So do a little bit of research. There's some good information out there. Just like anything, there's bad information too. So go to a good source. Find a practitioner near you or a practitioner who offers it remotely and ask for a consultation. Talk to the person, get a little bit more information. And there's no commitment. You try it once. If it's not your thing, then you can move on. There's not really anything to lose.
That's true. That's so dope. That's so dope. So like when how can I say it? So like how do you feel, all right, when it comes to this technology, right?
Hmm.
How do you feel that it kind of combines spirituality with actual science, and you can actually like show somebody like their charts, and you could be like, hey, listen, you're blocked here, you're blocked there, and you could back it up like physical, and it's not like, oh, superstition or anything else like that's,
Yeah.
that you actually could show them something tangible.
Right. Well, there's actually a report that I can share. Not everybody wants it, but because some people say I'm going to get too in my head if I have all that information. But and I respect that. But and other people want all the information. So at the end of a session, um, well, actually, let me change. I used to always show this at the end of a session. What I have learned, especially if there's been significant release, I just want the person to be in it. I just want them to be, not think too much. So I tell them, we're going to talk about it next time. I'm going to show you the skin like next time we talk. Um, because it's pulling them back into that analytical mind. And I want them to be in that sweet spot for as long as they can. But at some point, I show them on the screen. So it's all those color coded charts, and they can see with each round where their energy was moving. And because I'm taking notes, I know what they were talking about each time. So we can see, oh, here's something that we should really go deeper on because look what happened here. Or look how this energy stayed stuck in the angry zone. And people are not always identifying with anger. They'll say, I don't feel anger. But on a very unconscious, subconscious level, there's some anger stuck in there. So we can see where's the energy stuck, where is it moving. So they can see the graphs. And then there's also a report that's talking about what does this mean? What are some of the emotional and energetic explanations? Some of the zones are connected to physical health issues. Again, not everyone will identify with everything in the report because it's universal. The zones are universal, but there's always something in it. And certain zones are more specific to if we have a wound related to our relationship with our mother or our maternal caregiver, others more with our father or paternal caregiver. So that will come through. So there's a really nice detailed report that they can receive if they're interested, and that's available after each session. And you know, people who are some people are very spiritual, and they are just accepting that however this is working, their God, their higher power, the universe, their angels, their spirit guides, whatever is playing a hand. And other people are very scientific and analytical, and they see that this is scientifically backed up. And I say both are true. And if you feel better, that's all that matters. That's
That's a
kind of
big fact.
that's where I'm coming from. I've never had someone not have a positive experience. I don't even know if I said that in proper English, but I've never.
No, I get what you mean.
There's always been improvement or a new awareness or some enlightenment that comes through or a change or a shift. It's never not worked.
No, I got you on that.
Yeah.
And this is a question that kind of like popped in my head mid conversation. Have you ever had a client come in and their charts don't really show like trauma or anything like that, or they'll come in the first time, work with you, go, figure out one trauma, then they'll say, all right, cool, let's move on to the next one and the next one and the next one, something like that, like a chain reaction kind of thing?
Yeah, and and it's not always trauma. It can be. I think we use the word trauma for like this big umbrella of things. So there are true traumas that people experience, and then there are discomforts or inconveniences or things that have shaped us. So I think that term gets used a lot. So for sure, there are some true traumas that we're working through, and then there's a lot of just something's getting in the way of me having my peace. Something is getting in the way of me thriving. I feel like I'm existing, but I'm not thriving. Or this relationship ended 10 years ago and I haven't been able to be happy again. And I don't even want to be with that person anymore, but I know something about that changed me. Yeah. And usually with that example, that person has a deep core belief. I call it a false core belief, but something happened in that relationship or as a result of that relationship ending that this person now believes, and again, maybe on a very subconscious level, that they're not worthy or they're not lovable or they're not good enough. And that's what's getting in the way. And they may not even have those words or identify with that. But when we do the scan, like those are some of the zones. One of the zones is feeling unworthy. And on the other side of that is self-love and self-acceptance. Conditional love and unconditional love is another zone moving through. So I love stories. Everyone has a story. And the more I hear someone's story, the better I can guide them to where I think we need to go. But like I said, sometimes we're both really surprised about where we end up.
I feel you on that. Damn. That's so dope. It's so cool how you could, get all of this from a person's voice and you're only using about what? You said about 10 seconds of audio from like the client. That's so dope. It's
10 seconds. Yep, it's 10 seconds of audio, and then the sound output is anywhere from 30 seconds to 4 minutes based on what the information is telling me. Now we do multiple. We don't do just one. So that's called a round. Speaking and then listening. That's one round. Then we do it again, and we do it again, and we do it again. So I feel kind of rude because I'm usually cutting the person off because 10 seconds, right? It's
goes
quick.
Like that, yeah.
And I'll be like, okay, and we're done. And it does feel rude, but we both kind of laugh and get used to it. And sometimes people need to finish their thought, but I encourage them to hold it because we want to record it next time if there's more to say.
Mm.
Um, Sometimes 10 seconds feels really long though, because it's only recording when they're speaking. And we pause a lot. We don't always know that we're pausing. So when we pause, it's not recording.
Oh, okay, okay.
It's recording 10 seconds of sound. So if there's some hesitation or pause, the person might feel like they've been talking for a while, but there's been a lot of pauses. So I'll have to be like, I need a little bit more. Give me a little bit more.
Mm,
And again, it's not recording any of the words. It's just the tones.
okay, okay. No,
Yeah.
that's so dope because I was thinking that it was just a straight 10-second clip,
Hmm.
like with pauses and your breaths and everything in between. So that's so dope. Well, I learned something new today. I can tell you that one.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I would love it if you come to Tampa. I'd be happy to. I'd
And
happy to give you a
I,
session.
I know I'm going down to Florida sometime this year. So when I go down there, I'm definitely hit you up and we'll definitely do a session.
Excellent. Excellent.
All right. And right before we go, I asked this question to everybody who comes on the show. Do you have any final thoughts, words of wisdom, or advice for the roomies?
Mm. I think my advice is I believe all healing starts with our heart center. So whatever helps you tap into that, I feel like love is the answer to everything. Self-love is really the answer to everything. And whatever helps you get there, even if it's just for a little moment each day, to really lean into that and to not be afraid to try new things that could really open that up for you. So that's a great question, and I do want to share a gift with your listeners. I created
Oh,
a reflection journal. It's based on these 12 zones in the EVOX system, but you don't have to know anything about EVOX to benefit from the journal. It's really designed to help you kind of hone in on where you might be stuck. There's 5 prompts to go a little bit deeper. And then there is a checklist with the 12 zones and a little description to hone in a little bit more. And then there's 3 action steps that you can do today to start to move through that stuckness all on your own. So it's a free download. I sent you the link so you can provide that to them, and I hope that it's helpful.
it surely will be. Roomies, remember the link is in the description. So tap that. Make sure to go check out Christine and all her stuff. And, get some, if you need help, get your help. If you need to talk to somebody, talk to somebody. And if you have the opportunity to try Evox out, try it out because you
Yeah.
never know what actually lies beneath the surface. And with that, peace out.